Was Napoleon short? Origins of the Napoleon Complex, one of the world's most instantly recognizable cultural icons. Napoleon Bonaparte is usually depicted with one hand in his waistcoat and short and aggressive. His supposedly small stature and fiery temper has inspired the term the Napoleon Complex, a popular belief that short men tend to compensate for their lack of height through domineering behavior and aggression. But was Napoleon really short? In fact, he was probably of average height. According to pre-metric system French measures, he was a diminutive 5'2", but the French inch of the time was 2.7 centimeters, while the imperial inch was shorter at 2.54 centimeters. Three French sources, valet constant, General Gergaud, and his personal physician Francesco Antimacca said that Napoleon's height was just over 5 pieds, 2 pussies. Applying the French measurements of the time, that equals around 1.67 meters, or just under 5 feet 6, which is a little above average for a Frenchman in the early 1800s. Asterisk, asterisk. So if Napoleon was of average height, where does the legend of his small stature come from? It was, in fact, largely the work of one man. The British cartoonist James Gillray's caricatural depictions of the French general were so popular and influential that at the end of his life, Napoleon said that Gillray did more than all the armies of Europe to bring me down. From the start, Gillray satirized Napoleon as a thundering, boastful character, if not necessarily short. In 1798, the English Admiral Horatio Nelson destroyed the French fleet at the Battle of the Nile. In Gillray's cartoon, Bonaparte, hearing of Nelson's victory, swears by his sword to extirpate the English from off the earth. Napoleon brandishes a bloody sword and boasts of the many military victories he has already carried off, so many that the speech bubble threatens to overwhelm the image. But in this image, he is more muscular than small. It was a later cartoon that ushered in the diminutive image we are so familiar with today. Gillray's cartoon Mania Cravings, or Little Boney, in a strong fit, was a satire of a genuine diplomatic incident that had occurred on March 14, 1803, at the Tuileries Palace in Paris. In front of hundreds of European dignitaries, Napoleon vented his rage at Lord Whitworth, the British ambassador. On the appearance of Lord Whitworth in the circle, he approached him with equal agitation and ferocity, proceeded to descant in the bitterest terms on the conduct of the English government, summoned the ministers of some of the foreign courts to be witnesses to this vitupertive harangue, concluded by expressions of the most angry and menacing hostility. This brutal and ungentlemanly attack terminated by the first consul Napoleon retiring to his apartments, repeating his last phrases till he had shut himself in, leaving nearly 200 spectators of this wanton display of arrogant impropriety in amazement and consternation. Gillray's cartoon depicts a tiny Napoleon wearing boots that dwarf him, tearing his hair out in rage. He is surrounded by overturned furniture that is as big as he is, with speech bubbles swirling around him filled with manic raging thoughts about Britain. The name Little Boney would stick, and Gillray from that point on continually depicted the French emperor as diminutive, raging and boastful-like a child, throwing a temper tantrum. Fear of French conquest, British anxieties over Napoleon's breakneck conquest of continental Europe, and his evident intent to install relatives and favorites in positions of power were manifest in Gillray's 1806 cartoon, Tidy Doll, the great French drawing out a new batch of kings. It portrays Napoleon as a baker, whipping up gingerbread monarchs while his assistant, French Foreign Minister Talleyrand, knees up Poland, Hungary, and Turkey. While the name Tidy Doll referred to Tidy Doll Ford, a famous London gingerbread street hawker, the depiction of Napoleon, a small, dough-like figure, could only heap ridicule on him. despite the fears of his seemingly unstoppable power that the cartoon clearly responds to, and it worked. Shortly after these cartoons appeared, Napoleon sent a flurry of diplomatic notes across the English Channel demanding that the British government censor its press. Needless to say, British ministers ignored him. Gilray's image of Napoleon as a small man was so popular that other cartoonists took it up. An anonymous 1811 cartoon, Boney's Visions, or A Great Little Man's Night Comforts, shows Napoleon having night terrors as the cracks in his empire had begun to show. Among the many fearful figures swirling around him, a demon holds up a placard inscribed with the horrors of political satire, among which Gilray's caricatures is listed. The enduring influence of Gilray's satire that reduced the once inexorable and mighty General Napoleon Bonaparte to a tiny, raving figure shows how mockery can be a powerful weapon against the powerful.